Have you ever been to Poland yourself?
The only time I came to Poland
Hmm.
was in the early 1990s
Hmm.
when I was an employment minister, and the Berlin Wall had come down in '89,
Yeah.
and Eastern Europe, what had been the former Warsaw Pact countries, were all setting up social security systems, and they were setting them up pretty well from scratch. And they were taking advice and talking a great deal to Western democracies who'd been running them for years, so that they could benefit from all our mistakes. So then I visited Poland. I was in Warsaw and Krakow.
Okay. And have you at all been sort of seeing what's been happening? Because I know that the current government, for example, in Poland, has been getting an awful lot of negative press from sort of media. It seems in many different countries because it's having its own rifts with the EU. Do you have any opinions on that at all?
Well,
You've been
I
keeping an eye
think
on it.
the problem is that the EU is not what the EU set out to be. The EU set out to be, or at least it said it was, a loose alliance of sovereign states. And if that's what the EU still was, you wouldn't have had a Brexit vote, you wouldn't have unrest in Greece, you wouldn't have unrest in Poland. You wouldn't have that because people would be perfectly content. But the EU is a very, very oppressive organisation. And I often wondered why the Eastern Bloc rushed headlong into the EU
Mhm.
when it was liberated. I would understand why it would rush into NATO, but not the EU. And there will be problems. The EU will rumble on with problems from now until it finally implodes.
Okay, so you do expect it to implode then?
Eventually, not
Mhm.
tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Not tomorrow morning. I mean, it's got a choice, really. It can either say that it will not be able in the long run to keep up the federalism.
Mhm.
Or it can say, hang on, if we want to keep everybody on board, we've got to look again at the direction in which we're going. Now, so long as you have France and Germany with the attitudes that they have had for a very long time, which is that they are effectively the EU and everybody else has got to fall into line. So long as you've got that, you're going to have a lot of discontent. Discontent, I think, is a better expression than unrest. So you're going to have a lot of discontent.
Mhm.
And that will eventually implode. And I think what Britain does with Brexit, and everybody understands this, is going to be important. Because if we make a big success of Brexit, then I would put a heavy bet on Denmark following us.